Hello, listeners. I am super excited to have Chelsea Kmiec with Elurai Group joining us today. As many of you know, I am super passionate about making sure that we have health, wellness, and fitness goals included in our business plan, not just work, because a healthy person creates an amazing business. And so when I got introduced to Chelsea, I am just in awe of all the information that she has to bring. Now, what I want you to understand is that it's not just health, nutrition, and fitness. It's how Chelsea has taken a business to the next level in incorporating wellness into luxury real estate. And so, Chelsea, I'm going to turn it over to you to give us more of a deeper understanding of your career journey and walk us through a presentation that you've prepared. I'm excited for everyone to learn all that you have to share.
Super. Thank you so much, Debbie. And thanks for listening and watching. For those of you guys who are watching, for those of you folks who are watching, and I'm excited to be here and share, what I'm super passionate about, which is wellness in general, but also specifically wellness in the real estate industry. It's a growing industry. And the presentation I'm going to share is very much about statistics and the business of it. So if you are an agent or are in the business of luxury real estate, I think you'll find it interesting, informative, and educational. Some people, after hearing this presentation, didn't understand really that this was an entire sector. Wellness and real estate was an entire market in itself within the wellness industry. So it's very interesting. I find it interesting. I'm a little bit of a data and a science nerd, and that will bring me basically my career history goes back into 25 years in helping people become healthier and more fit and achieving their own personal goals. So I started in the fitness industry, actually, health, fitness, nutrition, and then I've seen that evolve over the last 25 years of my career. My joke is that I started when I was 7, so that's my age joke.
We both did.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, exactly. It's just wisdom, right?
It's all the fitness.
Yeah, for sure. I got to a point with my personal career that I was just like, gosh, people are working out, but they're not really changing. So there must be more. And that started this really kind of investigative process for me. There must be more. And so I got into nutrition and there must be more. And I got into like functional diagnostic nutrition, which gets into gut health and hormones and wait, still, there must be more. And then it's like, wait, but how are we living? How are we living on this planet? What is the air that we breathe and the light that so I've really come to learn that all of this comes together. And so throughout that career and that journey of, there must be more and wondering, investigating, researching and digging, I was also developing businesses along the way. So helping wellness facilities and working on operations and really getting a handle for not only the client facing side or the consumer facing side, but the business itself. And so I still do some of that today. And so I was able to combine those two passions of wellness and truly helping people, just educating them on how just small shifts in how we live can make huge impacts in our health and our longevity and the health and longevity of those that we love and sometimes share homes with. And also, the business side and the operations and that side of the business. So I'm able to combine those two things. And, people ask me often if I love what I do, and I couldn't pick a better career that's more suited for me and that I'm so passionate about. So yeah, I've then, I connected with a dear friend of mine who was in the luxury real estate business probably almost 10 years ago now. And we started talking about this. And, she is, I can probably mention her name. She's Julie Foppel. She's the founder of Realm Global, and she's a pioneer in the industry, someone I truly look up to and respect for just trudging the way, just paving the path and always being 2 steps ahead of everyone else. And so that's evident even in this small section of wellness, right? She 10 years ago said, there's got to be something here because there's, the wellness thing, the real estate thing. And so we talked and, here we are 10 years later. I serve as the chief wellness officer for the Realm community, which is a community of almost 600 of the world's top 1% or 1% of the world's top luxury agents. And so I'm honored to do that and honored to work with her and such amazing professionals. And so, you know, I've been able to help supply them with information, with statistics, and really educate that group in terms of why these things go so well together. And I think, we talked that the wellness industry itself is a $6.3 trillion market. So that's a lot of money. So when we look at luxury real estate, we look at, where do you go? You go where the money goes. So people that are buying these luxury homes, we look at spending habits and they are spending on wellness, and that's evident. So why don't we bring those two things together and meet them where they are? So what are the things they care about the most, right? And this is when we look at customer service, especially in the luxury market and especially in real estate. So I will walk through a few of these really fun statistics for you and kind of show you some of the research Not research I've done particularly, but the research available in the industry through the Global Wellness Institute and a few other key institutes that I will, watch and learn from often. So this is really what we're looking at in general, that 82% of US consumers now consider wellness a top or important priority in their everyday lives. And so we broke this down into these six categories of what people really care about. This is McKinsey and Company, so some of these research vessels you'll recognize as well. Also, Debbie, we're going to make this available. We're going to share a link, right, and make this available. So if you want to download this presentation and a white paper that I put together on wellness in luxury in the service market, we can get those too, right?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll put those in the show notes. So if you're listening, go ahead and make a note. This is one of those presentations you are absolutely going to want to go check out these downloads and capture these as a real estate agent or someone growing a business in that wellness space. Sure.
Awesome. Thank you. Yep. So we look at wellness, we think about from the consumer standpoint, what do people care about when they think about wellness? It's better health, better fitness, nutrition, appearance, sleep, and mindfulness. So these are all coming from the consumer side of things. And we know that wellness is not just the absence of disease. And, actually, my business partner and I will talk about this all the time. And she is the design and the creative piece of me because I'm very much logistical, operational. People are like, well, where should we position this? I'm like, I have no idea. I just know that you need it. I don't know where it should go or what color it should be. I just know that you need it. Um, and she is the other half, the design, creative design piece. And we were having this conversation about, it was wellness and longevity and sort of the shifting of not what these words mean, but I think what the consumer experience is of these things. And, one of my best examples of this is, it used to be that you go to a hotel and you would go look for the fitness center. And it's a room, even if it's a small closet size room that has a treadmill, a bike, and a couple dumbbells in it, and they call it the fitness center. Well, if you go to that same hotel today, you know what they call that room? The wellness center. Right? Even though there's no they've just shifted it because they understand that the consumer is looking for a wellness center, right? They're not looking for a fitness center anymore. So it's interesting when you can kind of these light bulb moments that turn on like, oh, I can see this has shifted and even in the hospitality market. And now I'm seeing longevity. So now we're moving this. It's like, okay, it went to like health and fitness, like wellness, and we're really looking at longevity. And maybe some of your listeners and you as well, Debbie, will recognize the word health span. So that's kind of been trending the last year or so ish that we used to talk about lifespan. And now we're talking about health span. It's not about how long you live. It's about how well you can live for as long as you can. Can you be healthy for the duration of your lifespan, right? So health span. So you'll hear those things as well in this wellness world. So, we look at our home. So there are two places that we spend the most of our time, home and office. And more now, I'd say home is our office. So you're doubling down on how much time you spend not only indoors, but in your home. And that's why that's so important. We look at the various aspects of a home and why it's so important. And when we can really flip the script and have people understand that, 80 to 90% of our health outcomes are within our control. They're epigenetic factors. They're things that we can, and by epigenetic, I mean things that are outside of our genetics. So what we eat, the things we expose ourselves to, whether, what we're hearing, what we're seeing, what we're, drinking, all those things, right? These are epigenetic factors that we're in control of those. So if I were to say to you, you're in control of 80 to 90% of your health outcomes, that's like, whoa, that's a huge responsibility. And then I also would say to you, where do you spend the most of your time, right? It's in your home probably. Then you can look at, wow, what things in my home can I shift to support that 80 to 90% of my health outcomes, right?
Yeah. Well, and we're even seeing it in office buildings with some of these
Yes.
top companies, in the top, 100 of employers where they are incorporating those wellness centers, gyms, massages, spas, saunas,
Yes.
all of those pieces into even the
Yes.
workplace because you figure the majority of the people work in America 40 to 90 hours a week. Let's be realistic. Most of us are workaholics. And to have those spaces available, I mean, to me, it's equally as important as daycare, right? Yeah. Well, and we're even seeing it in office buildings with some of these
Yes.
top companies, in the top, 100 of employers where they are incorporating those wellness centers, gyms, massages, spas, saunas,
Yes.
all of those pieces into even the
Yes.
workplace because you figure the majority of the people work in America 40 to 90 hours a week. Let's be realistic. Most of us are workaholics. And to have those spaces available, I mean, to me, it's equally as important as daycare, right? For
Yeah.
those growing families.
Yep. And what's interesting about that, Debbie, is not only the spaces, but also there's well building standards now and certifications in wellness that are really looking at the building materials, the paints, the fumes, the, types of furnishings inside the building, the type of air quality controls set up in the building for air purity standards. There's lighting specific certifications that are in the wellness industry looking at, it's funny, I've got behind me that light you see behind me. I don't know which side it's on. I'm always pointing and the mirrored camera thing. I'm like, it's somewhere behind me. That's actually a company that I did some work with called Skyview Lighting. It's a product from Bios Lighting, and they do circadian lighting. So that light actually shifts throughout the day, and at night it goes red, in the morning it goes more blue tone, it gets amber in the evening, so that I keep all my lights that they, change with the day, called circadian lighting. So things like that is not only like the rooms, the
No.
spaces that we have, exercise bikes and treadmills and whatever, but that we have,
Mhm.
what are the fumes we're breathing in? What is the air quality? What is the lighting? What is, these are the things that are, yeah, impacting our health, which is super cool that now, companies are catching on and big corporations are incorporating this into their building standards. That's very cool.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So here's some of the statistics I'll go back to. This, as I mentioned, the global wellness economy itself is $6.3 trillion, and that was in 2023. The reason it's backwards is because they come out with, at the end of every year, they look at the years prior. And so the last full year of data that we have is 2023. So, we're watching this grow, but we have projections out to 2027 and 2028.
Wow.
So what I think is really cool is the growth rate. And I always love showing this, that the growth rate of the wellness economy is almost double GDP, which is huge, right? So this is an interesting trajectory of growth. And we are projecting that this global wellness economy will reach almost 9 trillion by 2027. So,
Oh.
and then you might say, well, what is the wellness economy? So these little bubbles that you see are basically the way that the wellness industry itself has sort of divided into the wellness industry into different sectors. And the two sectors that I look at, for the most part with my work, is wellness and real estate and wellness tourism, because I do work with hospitality companies and retreat centers and things like that. So we're seeing people a lot of tourism. So those two sectors are the fastest growing sectors in the whole wellness economy. It'll be interesting, I think, looking at, I keep my eyes on, the healthy eating, nutrition, weight loss. I think that's very interesting, just where we are in the last year or so. I think when the data comes out with sort of whole nother topic, but with weight loss medications and things like that, it's an interesting time with that stuff. So these are statistics I think really cool to take a look at, just to give you the scope and the breadth of what, who cares about wellness and real estate? Well, I'll tell you who cares, your customers, right? Your clients. The numbers show that. So
Well, and two, I like you and I spoke, sorry to interrupt. You and I
yeah.
spoke about how this is really impacting the luxury marketplace first, and now we're seeing it even in your primary home residences, not so much luxury or destination type of housing. And that's what's most interesting to me is like who cares? The customer, and it's something that they want. And so what are
Yeah.
we as realtors doing to make sure that we're either promoting it if a home has it, or adding it if it doesn't, or building
Yeah.
it as
Yeah.
development?
Yeah, I have so many cases where, when I work with the Realm members, I'll be able to work with them exclusively on a specific listing. And there's a couple listings that we were set up with, they've got farm to table options. They've got, a small farm in the yard, or they've got like retreat centers, just different things in the house or in that listing. And there's been several times that we've edited a listing together, with, my support, obviously, and they feel like that made the difference in how they sold it and it closing faster. And it appealing to more buyers. And it's very interesting to, you see those hard statistics, and, they're coming back to me saying, wow, because I think because we shifted this, that listing stood out, among the three others they were considering, because the people resonated with, this is how this is going to affect not only me, but, you know, people care about the people that they love and their kids and everyone else who's in that home that can, leverage these wellness resources in the home. So it's interesting when we make those shifts as well. So
When you look at the term health span, I love that instead of lifespan.
yeah.
And a lot of luxury homeowners tend to have second homes. And so when they go to the second home, they're thinking about ways they can continue to be healthier or enhance their lifestyle while they're away. And they don't want to have to go find the next Planet Fitness to go work out or the next fresh market to go buy their food at, and so it's interesting with these second homes that by incorporating these, like you're saying, even in the descriptions, like letting the buyer know that this home features these key components, or there's the ability to grow within some different health and wellness features within the home. I mean, to me, it gets it to lifestyle, right? Instead
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
5 bedroom, 4 bath.
Yeah. You've got, 4 bedroom, 4 bath, and a whole longevity suite. This is interesting. A couple things
Yes.
that you said that, it used to be years ago when I was primarily more like in the fitness market. I did some work for equipment manufacturers. I used to work with a company called Cybex, which sadly was bought out and taken over, but I was the education director there. We did a lot with equipment. I would do a lot of placement of equipment in homes because everybody was building a home gym. Now I'm getting calls from those same people, not same people exactly, but you know what I mean? And they're
Yeah.
saying, I don't want any of this fitness equipment, but I want a red light bed, a hyperbaric chamber, and a cold plunge. Can you help me get that? Right. So that's more what we're doing now. And that's why I think it's cool when we talk about the longevity piece. And that's like looking at, I hate the word biohacking, but it's a term that people might be familiar with because it's the technology around improving your health span or your longevity, right? That's what we'd say biohacking is like, how do I live longer and what tools and hacks can I use to improve my health for the duration of my lifespan, right? So yeah, people are calling and
Mhm.
saying like, yeah, out with the fitness equipment, in with the longevity equipment or the red light beds. And so we do a lot of that now because, I think with social media and influencers and people are, trying to sell whatever, cheapy bed. But one of the people that I deal with are like, no, I need to know the truth because it's not like the industry is so new. It's not really regulated. So some of these things you're getting kind of clinical level
Right.
technologies, but they're not really regulated. So you want to make sure that you're vetting those. And that's one of the things that we do with our companies. We look at, what is the right equipment for people? What is, okay, you want a red light bed? Well, tell me more about what you want to use it for. Who else is going to use it? Does it need to be safe for kids? How tall is everybody? How big? There's all these things to consider when we look at placing equipment and getting, the most bang for your buck, the best value. And you don't want something that's going to break into in 2 years. So that's an interesting shift. But I also want to touch on, you mentioned the second home market. So I'm seeing huge booms in the second home market in wellness. So I've got several properties that I work with, a lot of them in Mexico and various, out of the country that are really, really, these whole communities are coming up. A few of them I'm working with in Mexico. It's an area that I'm passionate about, and I have to live in Southern California, so it's easy to get to for me. But they're whole communities that are second home communities that are wellness communities. So farm to table, wellness programming. They've got the cold plunge, the infrared saunas, they've got the red light beds, the hyperbaric rooms, and all these things that are, plug and play. You buy your second home, boop, you're in a wellness community. So it's like people are going to private retreats, but you own it. So
Wow. Yeah.
very cool.
Well, it's like that collective destinations, right? And that's
Yeah.
the community itself. It used to be,
Mhm.
and I know it still is somewhat, but 55 plus, right? They were looking for the 55 plus
Yeah.
neighborhoods. And now, like you said, the whole community. I love the incorporation of farm to table. Like I didn't even
Yeah.
think of that as far as
Yeah.
a piece of the wellness, but you're so right.
Yeah.
We're so we've gotten, like you said, even with the weight loss
Yeah.
injections and that sort of thing, more of a healthy mindset around eating that, I didn't even give that thought. I'm thinking about all the modalities of things that we can put in a home. Like,
Yeah, like a garden. Like, what if you could turn in part of the small portion of the yard or a courtyard instead of making it, or maybe it's a garden, and you're able to go and like just pull these right outside the kitchen. I think there's really things that you can do there. That's really beautiful. And like I said, design is not my thing. So, but the beautiful, but also functional, right? And that's really cool when you can also turn that and make that wellness connection that, people will be more interested in a home that has a, fresh food garden, a vegetable garden, than maybe, a rose garden. It's just an interesting spin.
for sure.
Yeah.
And sticking with the cultural differences in foods, right? And
Yeah.
that's like you mentioned Mexico, like I'm sure that's really interesting to
Yeah.
go to different countries and eat what they eat instead of going to our
Yeah.
backyard and picking cherry tomatoes and acorn squash, right?
Yeah. And I'll tell you, spending time there, the biggest differentiator is the food is all fresh. Literally,
Yeah.
somebody's picked it that morning and you're eating
Wow.
it. It's like, yeah,
Yeah, that sounds amazing.
it's just more accessible, I think, depending on, where you are. But yeah, so this is just another example showing, and we know that, for being somebody in the wellness, fitness, health space during the pandemic, and it's unbelievable. It's already been, 5, almost 6 years since the pandemic, which is mind blowing in itself. But we still talk about it because it was such a significant impact, obviously, in everyone's life, but especially in the health and the fitness market. That was all about community, and we all, a lot of it had to shut down. But looking at wellness and real estate and how that exponentially grew this market, because it was everyone was at home and then it became health at home. And so instead of going to your local gym, the gyms were all shutting down. Everyone, took their wellness stuff at home. And that's really held for a long time as far as the growth of the market. So that's pretty cool to see. It's 195% of its 2019 level, which is kind of huge. So
Mhm. for sure.
Yeah, and this is some of the same. So I just, I love having some of the statistics. It's just being able to see it. And this Serene Bee is a community, one of the wellness communities that's in Georgia, actually, which is one of the first wellness communities to pop up in the market. Now there's several. At some point, somewhere, if anybody's interested, I'm sure you can find my contact information. I had a whole list of all these communities that we were, putting down, looking at. There's so many of them, which is really cool to see, but also just showing the growth rate. So again, this is not slowing down. It's continued. The projected growth is going to stay high and it continues to lead the market all the way through 2028 as they're projecting. Key trends, this is some stuff we look at. So, like I was saying earlier, the building materials, non toxic home environments, the integration of fitness, wellness amenities, meditation spaces, smart technologies, the proximity to nature. We talked about having a garden and this biophilic design, these elements we're bringing outside inside. And key trends were increased property value and marketability, attracting younger buyers, which is really interesting because we know that our wealth is moving a little bit younger, differentiating listings in a competitive market. So I've talked about that a little bit as well in terms of the work that I've done through Realm, being able to really help differentiate slightly through wellness, which is really cool. Yeah. So we're seeing those trends. And this is really fun. This is the last slide I have, so we can shut down and just do open conversation, Debbie, if you'd like. But this is something we did a partnership with Vera Iconica, which is a design firm out of Jackson, Wyoming. And the founder is really was one of the pioneers with interior design and wellness. So, the work that we do now with our companies, we work with designers, architects. We don't do specific interior design, but we work with them in terms of being able to support things like this. So, this is something that Vera Iconica did again, which just kind of shows you here's your basic kitchen, and here's what it would look like if you made it a wellness kitchen. And I don't know if you can read all those little things, and that's not the important piece. But I think what's important to note, what I like to call out here is how many things can be affected by wellness and just your basic kitchen and things that you could do to just slight little tweaks to make your home more. And this is just the kitchen. So imagine the whole home, right? So we look at that in terms of well, what could I do if you're going to remodel or even staging a home for selling, or, what are some small shifts we can do to make this more in line with the wellness lifestyle that I think a lot of these luxury buyers, I don't think, I know based on, we're watching where the money's going, they care about these things, right? So yeah, and that's it with the slides, Debbie. So again, I'll make this and a white paper available through a link and we can just chat for questions and anything
Perfect.
else.
Yes, so you have the screen share, so I'll have you shut that down on your end. And then what I think is really interesting when you're talking about, just like you said, the small upgrades that you can do in your home to create just a new space, either for yourself or if you're going to be selling. Like you said, all those little things, I think all those little things are important because, again, in today's market where we're seeing an increase in inventory right now,
Yeah.
it is about setting yourself apart and positioning yourself for the buyer of today. And you don't have to have a cold plunge to market your home as a wellness, like, or having wellness amenities within the home, and so, that's just one of those things that I love. I couldn't read them all, but just, like, looking at the
Yeah.
different dots on the picture, I'm thinking,
Yeah.
gosh, like you said, there's so many areas that you could incorporate, and I know I'm at the beach, and so for
Hmm.
us, like, we're seeing an increase in saunas and cold plunges within the home, and so it's just
Yeah.
little things as the different modalities grow. And I know you also, like you mentioned, are working with resorts. For those out there listening that don't have any idea what you would do with a hyperbaric chamber or a red light device in your home, walk us through some of the health and wellness features of those different modalities as people are considering either one, how to promote it if they don't know and they walk in a home and they have one. And I am going to give this little sidebar. So I have a friend that during COVID or during the pandemic wanted a cold plunge because he was training for a marathon and he couldn't get one because, well, it was pandemic. So he went
Yeah.
and bought like a big freezer.
Bucket. Yeah. 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 The freezer. Yeah.
He would open it and close it, and that
Oh,
was his cold plunge, and, like, the
yeah.
most creative pick on him now, but it was funny.
It's so funny. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
but again, it's like,
Yeah.
what are some of those things if I was a real estate agent that walked into a home that offered some of these features and I had no idea what they did, give us just, like, the cliff notes or the shortcut on what we could market or anticipate with some of these modalities.
Sure. I think I'll keep it pretty simple. A lot of them, they share its key elements. A lot of it is reducing inflammation, improving circulation. So there's anything from looking at like nervous system resetting through energetics, like a PEMF, which stands for pulse electromagnetic frequencies, which looks like it sends a subtle energy, like a grounding energy through your body that can align your cells, reduce inflammation, improve circulation. So I think that's where it's like really tricky because there's anything from, we see a lot of PEMP, which I just talked about. We see a lot of red light. We see a lot of contrast. So cold plunge, sauna. And then, do you get an infrared sauna or traditional sauna? Do you get, your cold plunge? Do you do a chiller? Do you do outside? Where do you live? Who's using it? So all of these things, there's all a hyperbaric chamber. Who needs one? Is it safe for everybody? And do I need a $90,000 chamber or can I get, one that's a little cheaper? And do I get one that my favorite influencer is buying? Or do I, all these things that we see, which is interesting because like a silly example is with hyperbaric chambers. What a hyperbaric chamber does is actually, they are scary. Don't get me wrong. There's been in the news, there's been very sad stories, devastating stories of chambers exploding on, in healthcare industries. To be very clear, the ones we deal with, they do not use liquid oxygen. So they are not a combustion risk. So it's the liquid oxygen tanks at these high pressures that are risk for combustion. The ones we do at home are actually technically called MHBOT, which stands for mild hyperbaric oxygen therapy, which is safer for more people. Still always want to check with your doctor before you buy or get in one. But generally, to my knowledge, there's been the biggest danger is someone not monitoring someone and they fall asleep in it. And then but most of them have technologies that will shut down if that happens. So they're mild. And what they do is they use ambient air, which is the air that we breathe. And it doesn't change. It basically pumps in, it pressurizes that air so that you are receiving more oxygen in your cells at one time. Dr. Ratanzi, who I work with, who works with Oxy Health, which is one of the large chamber manufacturers, it's very safe. They're clinical grade chambers. He talks about the hyperbaric oxygen therapy as like if you could take a supplement of straight oxygen, like a pill, like a vitamin, and you could take it, it's the one vitamin or supplement that's going to nourish every cell in your entire body. So, when it comes to things like that, Debbie, it's hard, a lot of them share similar characteristics. They improve circulation, reduce inflammation. But, that's the big question that we get all the time. And, why our company exists essentially because it's what should I choose? And we have to say, well, who's going to use it? What are their ages? What are their goals? Do they have any chronic diseases that we're dealing with? And that's where my expertise comes in from the coaching side. And then, my partner will look at, are we working with a designer? How big of space do you have? Based on that, what do we choose? And so, yeah, there's all kinds of things. I don't know if that answered your question rather than just kind of talking about some of the things that we see and the ways to select pieces. But
Yeah, that's great. And for us, as I'm like categorize myself as a real estate agent
yeah.
in that group. I actually am a real estate agent. Didn't just stay at a Holiday Inn once. I mean, one big thing we're dealing with right now, and it has been a learning curve over the past 4 or 5 years, is the solar panels, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, how do solar panels impact your energy bill? How does it impact
Right.
your roofing? Should you have a new roof? Like, what
Right.
happens when we
Yep.
have to change the roof? And then who pays for it? And how
Yep.
does all that stuff work? And so
Yep.
it's interesting, like, as we continue down this path of, and I would say that's a green feature, much like a wealth
Yeah.
and a wellness feature. It's just one of those things that it's always good just to have a little bit of knowledge so that you can go look it up and not show up and be like, what is this thing again?
Yeah.
Do you have a
Yeah.
tanning bed? No.
Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
Reviews.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
again, you did answer it well. It's just so
Yeah.
that we have a
Yeah.
general idea of what we're talking
Yeah.
about. If we walked into a home or did a seller consultation, they said, "Oh yeah, by the way, I have a blank." So it's education at its finest for sure.
Yeah.
With the continued growth of wellness in real estate, and I do agree with you, it's going to continue to advance outside of luxury real estate,
Mhm.
being the primary focus right now. What do you see changing? What are some opportunities for collaboration as we continue to progress over the next 3 to 5 years?
I think some of the cool things, collaboration wise, the first thing that comes to mind is, we do events as well. One of the things we've done is like private boutique events. So we've curated wellness events at open houses. So I've got really great relationships with wellness vendors and partners. And so, we could throw in a couple hyperbaric chambers and a cold plunge tub outside and make a wellness retreat at one of these luxury homes that does have features. So we've done things like that that are really, really fun. Anything from we did a Skyview partnership one time and had the head engineer who was a NASA engineer. He flew out to this property and gave a talk about circadian rhythm lighting and things like that. So I think that's what comes to mind when we say collaborations in terms of wellness and real estate. But, it could be as simple as looking at, hey, I want to stage a home and this home has these features and we think this might go good with it. And maybe one of our partners might say, oh, we'll place something in there for 2 weeks or a month or something. And it can play around with that. And, we've done farm to table open house events where we've had a private chef come in and actually cook using the garden that was on the property, which was very cool. So just ways we tie things together. I don't know if that was your question or not, but that's mine. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I was looking for because I know you shared that you had done some different events with the open houses and that sort of thing, and that's why that you, like, reach out to Chelsea, use her as
Yeah.
a resource
Yeah.
because I agree, I know that there's going to be more and more opportunities for, collaboration within these
Yeah.
spaces, and, she may even know somebody locally because, like you said, you've got
Yeah.
several event spaces like the
Network.
one in Georgia that
Hmm.
you, referenced that you could even tie something with them, to get some additional exposure for your listings
Yeah.
because that's ultimately the key to the success right now in today's real estate market
Yeah.
is how far we can go. Well, Chelsea, this has been a wealth of wellness knowledge. Like I said at the top of our interview, when I was introduced with you, learning all these different things that are going on in the wellness space. And interestingly, and you mentioned this, my first introduction with Chelsea was she was speaking on a webinar and she explained the difference in fitness center and wellness center. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's so right. Because I'm the girl that like goes to the gym and I'm like, "Where's the fitness center?" And they're like, "Down the
Yeah.
hall." And I'm thinking, I don't really want the spa.
Yeah.
I want the fitness center, right?" But it's
Yeah.
all the same now. So, that to me was very interesting. So if you're anywhere like me, then you'll know exactly you can go in. You don't have to wear a robe.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And I think also like understanding what wellness is, a lot of people think,
Yeah.
oh, we're going to do a breath work session and a yoga session and we call that wellness. I'm like, no, 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 no. I think, and I'm
Yeah.
passionate about, and I think that's the educator in me. I'm just so passionate about education. I think that people, so we would curate an event or do something. It's really about how do we walk in and just, educate. We obviously want, I think experience and education are two important components when we design events. So we'll do these events that are, we bring credibility, we bring a team, we bring that luxury experience. We know that we're in line with branding integrity and, being able to come in and educate is really huge for us. So we're not just going to bring a red light vendor and say, "Hey, go try a red light." We're going to bring the president of the Red Light Research Association and have him tell you from the horse's mouth, essentially, this is what the therapy is. I designed it. I'm the engineer. And then, oh, by the way, you're all going to get, these sessions. And, it's interesting because they could be as simple. There's some things that can be a couple $100 to, the most expensive thing I'll probably sell is an in-home hyperbaric chamber that gets upwards of $100,000 if you want one. But, they can start at 15,000 ish and go up or a couple $100. So, that's what's cool about the industry and the technologies. You can, there's a huge array of options and it can be overwhelming for people. So, yeah.
You're spot on with that. It's one of
Yeah.
those things, it's like start small, learn a lot,
Yeah.
and then figure out, like you said,
Yeah.
and I love your path of, who else is using it? What are the ages? What are the
Yeah.
goals?
Yeah.
Really diving in instead of saying, yeah, let's just bring in the Cybex all in one piece of equipment because it's all in one. It works for
Right. Well, it's like,
everybody.
why would
So,
people not just list their home themselves on, I don't even know what, on Zillow, do you do that kind of thing? Why do they need an agent? Well, you know why? Because you're an expert, because you've got 20 plus years of understanding people's needs and being able to sort through that. And that's the same thing in, wellness. And that's why I think when Julie and I first talked about this so many years ago, it was like, wow, there's so many synergies between what wellness delivers and what real estate agents deliver. So what we deliver on the wellness side is really like my ability to talk to someone, understand. It's like almost, I don't want to sound woo woo, but it is like an intuitive sense of like, you need these things are gonna be great for you. Not that it's 100% intuitive, but it's because I'm leveraging this, encyclopedia of 20 years of experience and dealing with different types of people and knowing this is, I think it's going to work best for you. So, and I think the reason to go back a couple steps that education is so important is because your clients are seeing this stuff. My clients are seeing this stuff on social media. They're seeing it on Instagram. So it's my job to come in and deliver with education because I want them to know the truth, not just the fads and the trends, right? Let's understand this and also understand
Good.
how to apply it to ourselves, not just what the top influencers are doing because they're doing that to make money, let's be honest, right? Like how do you sort through it all? Because clients are already seeing this. Most of them know what a red light bed is and a hyperbaric chamber is. They don't know if they should have it, which one they should choose, why they should have it, is it safe for them? They don't know those things. But yeah, so it's interesting.
Yeah, we are in an era of influencers. So because Patrick Mahomes had something, now I need that. Much like years past, it was Michael Jordan's
Yeah.
Nikes, right? Nike
Yes.
hasn't reached out to me to do anything, but I don't know that they would buy it if they did, but then perhaps they would.
Right. Right.
But again,
Right.
it's like figuring out that it's not just makeup on TikTok. There
Right.
are reasons behind each of these,
Yeah.
and educate yourself. And you don't have to say no. You just have to figure out what's best. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Chelsea, I truly appreciate you. Again, Chelsea, founder of Elurai Group. All of her contact information will be in our show notes, along with the PowerPoint presentation if you missed that and a download. So please take advantage of the opportunity to connect with Chelsea and learn more about all the ways that you can help support and grow your real estate business through wellness. See you next time.